Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the fall or decline in the female workforce participation rate in India. Now coming to the current affair, the female labour force participation rate or the FLFPR to around 23% in 2017-18. So, in this context, it is important to understand what are the reasons for this decline in the female labour force participation rate, and we should also understand what are the government measures which have tried to increase the female labour force participation rate and why they have not become successful in increasing the female labour force participation rate. So, in this lecture, we will be analyzing all this in detail. Before beginning the lecture, this is our channel StudyIQ, and you can get pen drive courses for various competitive examinations like the SSC bank courses, UPSC optionals, SSC JE courses, teaching courses, railway examinations, defense examinations, RBI grade B examination, NABARD grade A examination, UGC NET, UPSC Civil Services Examination, CLAT exams for various state PSCs and also for various professional courses. You can visit our website www.studyiq.com for more details, or you can call to any of these numbers for more information. So let us start. Let us first understand what is the anomaly. So we will see that the LFPR, that is labour force participation rate, the overall labour force participation rate in India has declined in the recent past, and this can be one reason that resulted into a fall in the female labour force participation rate as well. So labour force participation overall or general means that both male and female labour force participation rate is included. So when there is a general decline in the labour force participation rate, this will impact the female labour participation rate as well. And this is said to be a result of the demonetization, because after demonetization or as a result of demonetization, the economic activity across the country collapsed. So this is said to be an effect or result of demonetization. Now, what is the anomaly or what is the abnormality here? The female labour force participation rate in 2004-5 period was 42%. And in 2011-12, it declined to 31%. So 2011-12 was pre-demonetization era or pre-demonetization phase. So demonetization happened in 2016. So we will see that even much before demonetization in 2011-12 itself, labour force participation rate, especially the female labour force participation rate, fell from 42% to 31%. So this is the abnormality, and notably the female labour force participation rate in India is the lowest among the emerging economies. So this is a serious cause of concern for us. Now coming to the analysis of various government measures in this regard, the government had initiated various specifically targeted programs for female or the socio-economic empowerment of the female in the country, and also it provided for various gender budgeting statements. So we will see that government has taken various steps in this regard. Various female targeted programs were introduced which were exclusively for the welfare and socio-economic empowerment of females, and gender budgeting statements were also provided by the government. And despite all this, the female participation rate in the labour force has come down. So we will analyze them. The first initiative was STEP, that is Support to Training and Employment Program for Women. This was introduced in 1986, and in 2015 the government introduced Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. But the outcomes of both these schemes are not very much appreciable, and this is because of insufficiency of budgetary allocations for such crucial schemes. So the budgetary allocations for these schemes were not enough to meet the targets of the scheme. There was a notable deviation between what was budgeted or what was allocated for these programs and what was the real spending for these programs. And secondly, India designed a rights-based job guarantee program under MNREGA. It guarantees 100 days of employment in the rural India. So MNREGA is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So it is a rights-based job. That means it provides a guarantee or right of 100 days of work. But even with MNRE-GA, this has not effectively translated into rise in employment, especially after the 2011-12 period. Now, what are the reasons for this? The first reason is care economy. So what is meant by care economy? The care economy concept means that the burden of women for household work is more compared to that of men. For example, women spend more time on fuel collection, domestic work, child care. So any household work if you take in India, the female has the burden of taking care of the family, taking care of children and all the household jobs. And this is referred to as time poverty of the female. So time poverty means that they are spending their time, or the time burden of women falls for the domestic work, and this impacts or this result into income poverty. So this concept of time poverty and income poverty means that when women spend more time on household work, they are not getting time to enter the formal workforce or to do an income earning job. So the time poverty is impacting the income poverty. They are not able to engage in income generating activities. So we can say that this care economy has caused constraints at labor supply, and also there are existing constraints in the side of labor demand. So what does it mean? Labor supply constraints means that women are not getting into economic activities or income generating activities because of their constraints in time and because of their burden on household works. So this constrains the labor supply. Women are not able to engage in income generating activities. So supply is constrained, and also there is an existing problem of labor demand. There is lesser demand for female labor because of many reasons which we have already discussed earlier in many other lectures. So there is both constraints for labor supply and labor demand for female workforce in the country. Now the second reason is Fem-U. So we will understand what is the concept of Fem-U, and this concept was designed by ILO, that is International Labour Organization. So this concept says that there is a U-shaped relationship between female labour force participation rate and GDP per capita. So let us understand what is this U-shaped relationship between female labour force participation rate and GDP per capita. So this U-shaped relationship proposes that the growth lowers female participation rate in the early stages of development and increases it at later stages. So let us understand it in detail. So early stages of development or early stages of increase in GDP. So growth and development, especially growth, is measured in terms of GDP or gross domestic product. So according to Fem-U concept, in the initial stages of GDP increase or more rate of economic growth in the economy, there will be a decline in the female participation rates in employment, and this will increase in the later stages of development. So in the early stages it comes down, and in the later stages it goes up, and this is called the U-shaped relationship between female labor force participation rate and GDP per capita. So this is a very important concept. So you should remember that this was proposed by ILO, International Labour Organization, and according to Fem-U, that is U-shaped relationship between FLFPR and GDP per capita. In the initial stages of growth and development, the female work participation will come down, and in the later stages of development, the female labor force participation will increase. So this can also be one reason why the female labor force participation rate has come down in India. We are going through a early phase of development. But here one constraint is that Fem-U is an experimental question and it requires further research. Now let us understand what lies ahead for India. So we have discussed the concept of Fem-U. So according to Fem-U, in the early stages of development, there will be a decline in the female labor force participation rate. But in the second phase or in the later stages, there will be an improvement or increase in the female labor force participation rate. So India is likely to benefit from moving up in the second phase of Fem-U. And according to ILO, that is International Labour Organization, reducing the gender gap in South Asia alone by the year 2025 can lead to a 7.2% increase in the GDP for the region. That means if the female participation in labor force increases for India, there will be a definite increase in the GDP of the country. So there are economic gains by increasing the female labor participation rates. So there is an immediate need to invest in public infrastructure in order to increase the economic growth by increasing female labor force participation rate. And also, the macroeconomic policy makers should understand the significance of integrating gender perspective in job creation. So this will also improve the female labor force participation rate. And by increasing the female labor force participation rate, there can be improvements in the economic factors as well as social factors. The status of women in the society will improve, and it will also contribute towards economic development or better rates of economic growth in the economy by increasing the GDP. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page, and for any queries regarding your UPSC preparations, you can get in touch with me on my Facebook page, or you can email me at joyce.studyiq@gmail.com. Thank you.